Some strange things started happening to me.
Max Spiers was a conspiracy theorist. He died in July 2016 on a sofa in Poland.
Coming to Poland has been tumultuous, to say the least, to stop me from coming to Warsaw to be able to convey this information to you.
Max died in the home of Monica de Waal.
Monica answered. She was hysterical and she said, yeah, he's dead. He said, if I don't survive this, Mum, then you have to make sure that you look into it.
Explain also who is Michael Aquino.
He's a colonel. He is, wow, am I saying that, did I? Must hit backhanded for that one. He's a colonel. He knows very well who I am. There will be at some point a showdown between him and I.
Lawyer Cynthia Angel tried to subpoena Michael Aquino for a child custody case. Within days, she was kidnapped.
Are you ready?
I'm ready. I think I'm ready.
Hearty welcome, Max. Proszę wielkie brawa dla naszego super żołnierza.
Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel.
Today I want to talk about what happened to Max Spiers. Max Spiers was a conspiracy theorist who was found dead on his friend's couch. And then weird things started happening in the investigation. First, there was no autopsy. Then there was an inconclusive autopsy. Then when Max's mom got his laptop and phone back, they were wiped completely clean, and he was investigating and researching things. So as you can imagine, he was a conspiracy theorist. It was in the conspiracy theory community, so they were conspiracy theories. So as usual here on my channel, I'm going to give you guys the facts. We'll talk about the theories and then you can decide for yourself. Thank you to my subscribers. I just want to mention real quick that I am aware of what's going on with Lori Vallow, and I do have a video coming up. It's taking me longer than expected, but look out for that. It should be my next video. And if you are new here, hi, I wear a tinfoil hat, obviously, and I talk about true crime and conspiracies. So let's talk about them. So the whole thing started when Max was found unresponsive in Warsaw, Poland. Max was British and he went to Poland for a convention that he was speaking at. It was at this convention that he met Monica de Waal. Monica is the person whose apartment and couch he was on when he died, and Monica was there when he died. He died 2 months after moving in with Monica, and 2 days before he died, he texted his mom. He said, "Your boy's in trouble. If anything happens to me, investigate." And then something happened to him. So of course, you can imagine the mother was like, oh, I need to look into this. I need to investigate. Monica was a sci-fi author, and she was his girlfriend, his friend, his lover. It's hard to tell. It's a bit complicated. We'll get into that a little bit later, but they were said to have a, quote, intimate relationship. Now, according to Monica, he was on her couch and then she noticed that he was unconscious, and so she tried to resuscitate him, and when she did that, she said he vomited 2 liters of black liquid.
Monica answered. She was hysterical and she said, yeah, he's dead.
This is when weird stuff started happening in the investigation. The first responders did not take Max's body and preserve it to do an autopsy or anything like that. Once they pronounced him dead at the scene, they left him there. They didn't collect his body until 11 a.m. the next day. Before an autopsy, they said that he died from natural causes just from looking at him. They said he didn't have any visible injuries, bruises, cuts, anything. We were told 2 years after this all took place that 2 police officers were removed for disciplinary reasons. Then we also found out that the first responders had varying accounts of what happened. According to Max's mother, quote, there were a number of discrepancies. Sorry, her solicitor, her attorney, said that there were a number of discrepancies in the first responders' accounts of what happened. According to Max's mom, after they left and the body was still at the house, when she was talking to Monica on the phone, she heard really weird things. But I'm getting way ahead of myself because we need to talk about the weird things that happened in the investigation. When Max's mom got the laptop and the phone from authorities, it was wiped clean. She said that she knew that he had stuff on his laptop and phone, but when she got it, there was nothing there.
His case came with him, but it didn't have his laptop or his phone. A couple of 3 weeks later, she sent it, but there was no SIM card in the phone, and there was nothing on the computer at all. Somebody had clearly, definitely wiped everything off of it.
The other thing too was that the Polish authorities did not want to give Max's mom any paperwork. So she had requested all the paperwork that they could give her about the investigation, what happened, blah, blah, blah. And she said, quote, "All I have is a death certificate from the Polish authorities that it was from natural causes, but no post-mortem was done. So how can they tell that? They are also refusing to release any paperwork about it to me because, absurdly, I don't have his written permission." I would imagine it's difficult to get his permission when he is dead. All of that combined had people wondering what was going on. This kind of looked like a cover-up or, you know, like extreme incompetence. I don't know. The media went to them and asked them, why didn't you conduct an autopsy?
Mogliśmy m.in. przeprowadzić kluczowych tego typu przypadkach sekcji zwłok.
And they said that actually the reason why they didn't do it is because by the time they wanted to do it, the body was already sent over to the UK because, right, Max is British. Now we are in the UK, we're no longer in Poland. They do an autopsy and guess what? Inconclusive. The police in the UK then decided they were going to conduct their own investigation, and while that was going on, the internet streets were talking and a theory began to emerge. Also, real quick, this is my first sponsored video ever, so I have sold out. No, but seriously, this video is sponsored by Skillshare. Skillshare is a learning community with thousands of online classes. It's a great place to explore new skills, or you can develop existing interests. Skillshare classes are pretty easy to sit through, so if you want to do something, maybe you're bored or it's like a self-care day, Skillshare is the place to keep you learning. I learned actually pretty useful information from the class Productivity for Creatives by Thomas Frank. He talks about how amateur creatives wait until, you know, inspiration strikes, but that actual professional creatives usually schedule their inspiration time. During that time, you're actually more likely to be inspired. So the first 1,000 people who click the link in the description will get a free trial for Skillshare Premium membership. After that, it's only about $10 a month. Thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and thank you to my subscribers for watching this. Let's get back to the video. Before Max died, he told more than one person that a satanic cult was after him, and he even told an ex-girlfriend that where he was at, Monica's house, that he was being held against his will. Her name is Sarah Adams, and she said he was terrified. He wanted to leave. He wanted to come back to England because we were going to get married and have a baby. He was the love of my life. He rang me secretly because they wouldn't let him talk to me, and he said he was trying to get away from them. They were doing very dark black magic and satanic rituals to deprogram him and get rid of demons. He said they had given him something that had put him in a coma for 2 days. It wasn't easy to just walk out because the house is in a remote forest with an electric fence around it. He said something demonic is going on. He said he needed to get out and find a church or a holy place, but 2 days later he was dead. They were doing some kind of black magic on him. Just to clarify here, you've got this intimate relationship that Max was having with Monica in Poland, and then there's this ex-girlfriend that he's saying he wants to marry and have a kid with back home. So that is happening. And then Max's mom came out, and this is when she told media what she heard on the phone the night Max died. The police and the doctor all went off and left my son dead lying there with these people. I was on the phone to one of them, and I could hear in the background there were strange suggestions of things that should be done. Things like put milk by his side, and get garlic and put flowers and put vinegar, and very weird goings on. I could hear it being said. It sounded like rituals going on, some sort of satanic rituals. Then I found out that his body hadn't left the house until the following morning. She also said that one of the people in that group sent her a photo of Max after he died, and that there was this red mark that was on his forehead that looked like a blood blister or something, and that this mark was not mentioned in any of the first responders' reports. So people think that, you know, after the first responders left, they were doing all kind of weird things with his body. I don't know. Monica sent her a picture of Max in a coffin wearing some kind of silk robe, and also she posted a picture of a satanic book with a phone SIM card next to it. Remember, his phone was returned without a SIM card, and the book was titled Sacrifice, Magic Behind the Mic, and it's all about rappers like Kanye West and other rappers who are apparently involved in like satanic, you know, Illuminati, whatever you want to call it. If you look at his last speech that he did at the conference in Poland, he mentions that there's a slide, and it's in April 23, 2016. So that's a few months before he died. It's Super Soldier Summit, trauma-based mind control, occult rituals. Max was researching satanic cults before he died. More specifically, they were saying that he was researching a particular case.
What went on there was unbelievably heinous.
Okay. So explain also who is Michael Aquino.
He has no record of doing anything wrong. He was acquitted on every level of doing anything wrong. He knows very well who I am.
It is actually in the news. It's a real case that happened. Around 40 children were sexually abused, and the way they found out about this was that one of the kids tested positive for AIDS, HIV, and these kids were being abused by a satanic cult, and one of those people was a man named Michael Aquino.
And it's precisely that evil spirit that Aquino and his wife honor and invoke.
Hear now the legacy of the priesthood of Set. In the Diabolicon of the age of Satan is recounted the primeval sundering of the cosmos. His high priest upon earth, name you to our fellowship.
We discovered that Michael Aquino is not all he seems. For a start, he's a lieutenant colonel in the US Army and a specialist in psychological warfare, holding a top-secret military security clearance. Army investigators here at the Presidio base in San Francisco have now formally accused him of ritually abusing young children from the base's daycare center. One young girl says she was horribly abused by both Michael and Lilith Aquino at their nearby home.
A U.S. Army chaplain made an accusation of child molestation centering on us at the Presidio of San Francisco.
We have a copy of the police report, and the child appears to have identified you.
That's not true.
But as the police report shows, and the Aquinos know full well, the victim of that attack did identify them both as her abusers, to her parents, to her therapist, and to the Army. Since that original disclosure, at least 5 other children have made identical allegations.
And they've also told the Army investigators that they'd been in his house, and they disclosed what the inside of his house looked like.
He is known for being extremely vengeful and will go to great lengths to hurt and suppress anybody who is investigating him.
Lawyer Cynthia Angel tried to subpoena Michael Aquino for a child custody case after 2 more children alleged he'd abused them. Within days, she was kidnapped.
A stranger stepped into my car, pointed a gun at me, and told me to drive outside of town. I drove out of town, was shown a picture of a naked infant. I listened to a tape recording. There were infants crying, children crying, and adults chanting. I was told repeatedly during this drive that should I tell anyone what I see or keep investigating the case that I had been investigating, that I would be killed.
This lawyer was taken out into the desert at gunpoint.
Well, that's asinine in a nutshell.
It's that kind of stuff. It's that kind of stuff that is causing all the misery.
And it's a witch hunt in the classical sense.
It sounds insane, and that's because it is. I found this article from the LA Times in the archives from 1988, and it says here, San Francisco prosecutors have declined to bring charges against an Army officer and satanic priest who had been accused of molesting a 3-year-old girl. Deputy District Attorney Michael Williams said police were unable to verify allegations against Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino, a reservist and intelligence specialist, and Gary Hambright, a former Army daycare center employee. Williams said he believed the child's story, but the case was dropped because there were insufficient evidence to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. It says the girl told authorities she was driven to Aquino's house in the Russian Hill section by Hambright and was molested by a man she later identified as Aquino. The girl said one room in Aquino's home was painted black. Police found such a room. Aquino's Temple of Set, founded in 1975 as an offshoot of the San Francisco-based Church of Satan. He got away with it and he was like mad that it even happened. So I tell you all this to say that people are saying that, you know, Max was investigating this guy and that this guy may have had something to do with it, and that is the whole Satan thing. Who was Max Spiers? Listen, he had some pretty far out ideas.
Coming to Poland has been tumultuous, to say the least. I have been under psychic attack, under astral attack, and under physical attack to stop me from coming to Warsaw to be able to convey this information to you. I was born into a specific bloodline. With me, the trauma began whilst in the womb, whilst the fetus is inside the woman. If the mother is then traumatized, then that in turn traumatizes the child immediately. When the mind is fractured through trauma, whether it is sexual trauma, whether it is physical trauma, violence, the mind fractures itself and creates an amnesiac barrier around that. In these amnesiac barriers, they then can place triggers to then access the particular altar that has been created through the trauma. So you could theoretically create an assassin or a spy. So a spy or an assassin that doesn't know that he is a spy or an assassin is the ultimate spy or an assassin. Techniques used to do this are extremely graphic and extremely horrendous. King Charlemagne here. He was not a nice man. He displayed reptilian characteristics to the extreme. The makeup of everything around us is made from geometry, sound, light, and then physical. This is important to say.
He believes that he was part of Project Mannequin, a secret UK military program designed to create super soldiers. And the super soldier thing, it's not that big of a conspiracy. I mean, there's many videos about different countries trying to create this.
Brace yourselves for what I am about to tell you. China could be breeding genetically modified soldiers. You heard that right. The Chinese regime could be creating mutant soldiers.
The age of the cyborg super soldier is upon us. DARPA, the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, is developing an implantable device that can give military members control over jet lag and even direct neural enhancement of soldiers' brains, which could allow something akin to telepathy and push them closer to being the ultimate cyborg super soldiers.
We have cognitive enhancements. These involve pharmaceuticals, brain stimulation to reduce the need for sleep and increase the capacity to operate under stress.
You know that movie Manchurian Candidate?
Somebody put an implant inside me. I got a good feeling they put one in you too. Not crazy, Shaw.
Raymond Prentice Shaw. Listen.
It's a coup. This is rich people funding bad science to put a sleeper in the White House.
So Max believed that he was one of those super soldiers, and so when he died, the conspiracy theorists were like, oh my god, they switched him off because he knew too much, he was talking about this. So those are the two main theories that are floating regarding that somebody did this to him that was very big and powerful. But then there is another theory, something that we need to talk about, and that is Max and his mental health and drug history.
Did you worry about his mental health at any point?
Yeah. He suffered from anxiety, no question.
Make no mistake about it, Max was no saint. He did some recreational drugs, he drank like hell, and he had a good time.
This theory about him having issues with those things came out when his last ever interview was published to YouTube. This interview was done just a few days before he died, and it was published to YouTube just a few days after he died. First of all, it's mostly audio, but there is like this short video clip when he's on the trampoline, and the reason why he's on a trampoline is because he sounds like he's going in and out, he's slurring. I mean, he sounds high.
I'm quite tired, so just letting you know.
Yeah, you're tired, yeah. Let's talk about the procedural case. Okay, so explain also who is Michael Aquino.
He's a colonel. He is wow, don't mind saying that, do they? Must have got hit like backhanded with that one. He's a colonel. He seems to have a disdain for me. He doesn't like me very much. He knows very well who I am. I think that there will be at some point a showdown between him and I. We'll meet in 3D.
Mm-hmm.
I think we probably have already.
Okay, and Michael Aquino has a special army.
Yeah. Usually I wouldn't be talking about things like this.
Mm-hmm.
Very fringe and touchy subject.
So the interview is like an hour long. I'll link it down below. It's kind of hard to sit through. He's just repeating things, and then they're stopping, and then they're starting again, and then at one point he goes to sleep. Like, I think even more than once he falls asleep, and so then they tell him to jump on the trampoline to freshen up, and that's when we see the footage of him jumping on the trampoline. Basically, when this interview came out, everybody was like, well, he sounds like he has a drug problem, like maybe drugs had something to do with this. And his mother even thinks that he sounds high.
I think he sounds as if he's got drugs in his system, no question.
The thing is, people are saying, well, was he high because he was using, or was he high because he was drugged? Was he poisoned? This is the debate with that. This brings us to the other theory, which is that maybe his friends had something to do with it, you know, the ones that were acting weird and doing all these like rituals, and the mom heard it on the phone. They saw him acting like this. They were still trying to interview him. Like, what really was going on in that house in the days leading up to his death, and what were his friends' involvement in it? Friends. As all these theories were going out and rumors and online and all this was happening, right, that investigation was going on in the UK. And then a few years after his death, they had the investigation completed, and they had this inquest hearing to reveal to the public like what they found and what the official story is about what happened to Max Spiers. So in this hearing, we heard from his mother. The mother told the court that he sent her this text message 2 days before he died. She even added that he said, "I think I might be murdered." Then we heard from Monica. People were accusing her of doing this and having some involvement in it. So she went silent. She was speaking to police, but nobody had heard from her. So this was like a big deal that she was coming out and speaking. She said she met Max at the conference that he was speaking in Poland, the one he went to. They exchanged numbers. He did not fly back like he was supposed to, and he began living with her. She said that after picking him up from his hotel, she took him to a doctor's surgery and bought him medication worth more than 1,500 Polish zloty, about 315 pounds. Monica said that, you know, he seemed to be having health issues, that he would have a hard time focusing or paying attention, and that one time she found him unconscious like on one of the deck chairs in her garden. She said she paid for his medical appointments and she bought him medicine, and essentially she was kind of like taking care of him, and that they had an intimate relationship. Monica lived with her teenage daughter, and so her and her teenage daughter and Max, they went to a vacation in Cyprus, and it was in Cyprus that he purchased, or actually he didn't purchase, he asked her to get the entire stock, which is about like 8 to 10 boxes of Turkish Xanax, which you could get without a prescription. Monica agreed. She bought the entire stock, and then when they got back to Poland the night he died, he took 10 of those tablets, which is a lot. And the reason why, according to Monica, he told her the reason why he's taking that much is because they're weaker. So in order to be the same dosage that he's used to from the traditional Xanax, he had to take that much. She saw him, he seemed fine, he had taken the pills, she left, and then like she came back to the living room and she noticed he was unconscious. That's when she tried to revive him. I noticed he had something in his mouth, some remnants of food. So I turned him onto one side and saw gastric fluids pouring out of him, brown liquid, like somewhat tea colored. Monica said she desperately tried to save him. She called the ambulance. She said, I would have done anything to save him. I really cared about him. I was deeply in love with him. It was also revealed that the first responders had to call the police to the scene because Monica was getting so angry and was not letting them leave once they pronounced Max dead. Like she wanted them to still try to bring him back to life, and so they had to call the cops for that. Then they brought the toxicologist out, and the toxicologist said that this Turkish Xanax is what caused his death, in addition to widespread pneumonia, and he had a fever the day he died, and so the fever with the opioids together is what caused his death. Then the coroner spoke out, and the coroner had a lot to say and was extremely critical of the Polish authorities and how they handled this. He said Max was a conspiracy theorist, and a well-known one at that. If there was anything that was bound to excite the interest of other conspiracy theorists, it was the wholly incompetent initial investigation into his death. He also criticized them for leaving Max's body overnight and how that severely hindered the autopsy, and that's why it was inconclusive, and that's another reason why people were like, what really happened? We found out that he has had a long history with drugs and that he was actually a heavy user. He was in the States when he had this injury to his pelvis. He like fell and whatever, he broke his pelvis, and they prescribed him painkillers. He then became addicted to those painkillers, and then when he couldn't get the painkillers, he would get street drugs, and that's how his addiction spiraled. And that actually, when he left to the UK to go to Poland, he was clean.
He came here, he was as clean as a whistle, absolutely nothing wrong with him at all. That leads us to the point of when he went to Poland.
This brings us to the theory of the accidental overdose, right? What if, you know, he was clean, so his tolerance is now way low. Then he's also taking this foreign thing that he's maybe not familiar with, and he's taking an insane dose of it. What if he just couldn't handle that amount of thing? What if he had gone to Poland, he had relapsed, he was in this thing, they're going to Cyprus, they're buying this stuff, they're at this house, they're investigating all these things, like they're in this whole thing, right? So what if it's just that? Okay, that's pretty likely, and I do think that's a major factor in it, but there's this thing about like, what were the friends doing afterwards that the mom overheard on the phone?
There were definitely people there, I could hear people there. The urgency team and the doctor and everything were long gone. They were trying to, all sorts of, I don't know what, to bring Max back hours after. They were talking about these strange things like cups of milk and cups of vinegar, and I could hear all this being said.
Why was the laptop wiped clean? Why was the phone wiped clean? Phone wiped clean. That brings us to the theory of the friends. The thing that really fueled this theory of the friends was leaked emails.
Emails from Monica Duval and Madeline Namro, who were friends with Max in Warsaw.
Mr. Christoph, I would like to ask you, would you be willing to help Max Spiers? I think that he needs an urgent help. He's aware of the state that he's in. We would really like to help him a lot. Then comes Madeline. She said Max Spiers suffers on personality disorder and paranoidal schizophrenia.
Wow,
and he's addicted to medicines.
The quantum therapist agrees to help, and he tells them that Max should take niacin or vitamin B3.
And it's pretty interesting because when you listen to his last interview that he did when he sounded really high and out of his mind, he talked about his face burning.
My face feels on fire.
His face feels on fire.
A side effect that can come from niacin is like flushing or facial burning. So the theory began to emerge that maybe it wasn't intentional. Maybe they were giving him weird vitamins and stuff and natural remedies. Maybe they thought, oh God, what if people find out about these emails? or that we gave him stuff and now he's dead. Could it come back to us? Maybe manslaughter or something, involuntary manslaughter, maybe. And that's why they wiped his phone and wiped his laptop. Also too, the weird mark on his head.
I've been shown a picture by Vanessa of Max's dead body. On his forehead is this large, strange, sort of dark mark about the size of my thumb. It looks a bit like a blood blister. I've seen the emergency services notes and there isn't any record of that.
In any case, regardless of these theories, the most important thing here is Max's mom, and she was really trying to find out the truth, and she wouldn't let the story die, and she would tell anyone who would listen, like, hey, he said something was going to happen to him and then something happened to him. He told me to look into it, like, I gotta look into it, help me. And after the end of this official story from the inquest, she felt like she had closure. He had a belief system. A lot of what he questioned, I would have agreed with him on when it came to the government. It's when it got into otherworldly things that I couldn't follow. I don't hold those beliefs myself. The pneumonia was clearly a massive aspect of his death, which I hadn't realized. In a way, it was good to know that. I would love to know what you guys think. Do you think this was an accident? Was it an accident on his own or with his friends? Was it some satanic thing, super soldier thing? What do you think? Let me know. I think that it was a combination of what he took and also what his friends were giving him and him not being well, and all of that together. I think that the friends may have wiped the computer and the laptop before the authorities took, because if they didn't even take his body till the next day, I doubt they took his laptop that time too, or his phone. Okay, they didn't even take his body. So they probably sat there, tried to revive him with all their like ritual stuff. It didn't work. Then they started being like, well, we gave him this and we told him to take that and there's emails about it, and then they, let's wipe it clean, let's take the SIM card out. Maybe I could see that happening. So that's what I'm leaning towards. I don't think he was powerful enough or even fully there to be a threat to any real thing. The satanic thing is really weird, regardless of whether this Michael Aquino knew about Max or not. That in itself is like, what happened there, and these guys are free and blah, blah, I don't know. I'm kind of afraid to like dive deep into that one. Thank you to Skillshare for sponsoring this video, and thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.